The wooden wagon rattled, its wheels biting into the dry dirt path until the rhythm abruptly changed. Vamp leaned over the edge, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He muttered to the air, "I have a feeling this Fizzy Kingdom is going to be sticky, bubbly, and probably leave a bad aftertaste." Neela, Sarah, and Tina sat cramped beside him, their bodies jolting with every uneven bump in the road. Then, the gates loomed ahead. The wagon rolled through, and the world transformed. The sky seemed to catch the light differently, refracting through a landscape that defied logic. Buildings rose around them, shaped like massive, translucent glass bottles. The streets were not paved with stone, but flowed with sparkling, carbonated streams that hissed against the wagon wheels. The air tasted sharp, metallic, and sweet. Vamp gripped the side of the wagon, his knuckles white, as he watched a stream bubble past a storefront. Every surface shimmered with trapped gas, and the very ground beneath them hummed with a low, rhythmic vibration. The wagon came to a halt before a grand entrance. Guards ushered the group into the throne room, where the air felt pressurized and dense. Queen Soda stood over a massive, glowing map that dominated the center of the hall. She pointed a finger toward a jagged, dark patch spreading across the parchment. "The Fizz Eater is draining our soda gemstone power," she declared, her voice echoing off the carbonated walls. "If the gems go dark, the kingdom goes flat." The team watched as the dark patch pulsed, a rhythmic throb that seemed to sap the light from the room. The stakes shifted instantly from exploration to survival. Queen Soda signaled to the side, and two figures stepped forward. Ray and Para emerged from the shadows, the sound of their gear clanking against the floor. They stood ready, eyes locked on the map. The Queen gestured toward the exit. "The soda forest is your target. Find the source and stop the drain." Vamp looked at the map, then at his companions. The cynicism in his expression hardened into resolve. They turned as one, leaving the throne room behind. The wagon waited outside, but the mood had changed. The team piled in, the added weight of their new allies settling the frame. They pushed off, heading toward the forest. The soda forest loomed, its trees weeping thick, sweet syrup that coated the ground in a sticky, amber glaze. The air hung heavy, smelling of concentrated citrus and trapped bubbles. They reached the mouth of a jagged cave temple. Standing there, waiting, was Muggs. He leaned against the stone, his presence commanding, a figure forged by long years of travel. Vamp offered a sharp nod, and without a word, the group absorbed him into their ranks. They plunged into the temple. The transition was immediate. The air grew thick, pressurized with a dense, stinging fizz that made every breath a labor. Visibility dropped as the walls pulsed with a sickly, rhythmic light. Then, the shadows detached themselves from the rock. Monsters formed of hardened, jagged sugar surged forward, their limbs clicking against the stone floor. Neela swung her weapon. The team tightened their formation, backing against the wall as more creatures poured from the darkness. Every strike was a desperate effort. They pushed deeper, the cave opening into a vast, pressurized chamber. In the center sat the Fizz Eater, a massive, shifting mass of sludge that pulsed with a dull, rhythmic thrum. It filled the space, its surface rippling like boiling tar. Without warning, the creature lunged, sweeping tentacles of thick, viscous liquid across the floor, forcing the team to scatter. Neela and Sarah rolled clear, but the path to the core remained blocked. Muggs did not hesitate. He sprinted directly into the chaos, his sword gripped firmly in his offhand. He ducked under a lashing tentacle, the air whistling as it passed inches above his head. He reached the creature's center, planted his feet, and swung his blade in a wide, desperate arc. The steel bit deep into the sludge. For a heartbeat, the chamber went deathly silent. Then, the creature shrieked, a sound like 1,000 bubbles popping at once. It collapsed, dissolving into a harmless, sparkling mist that filled the cavern. The stolen energy surged outward, rushing back into the walls. Back at the kingdom, the heavy tension of the temple finally bled away. The team moved through the gates and straight into the royal sauna, shedding the grime of the cave for the embrace of warm, bubbling water. Steam rose in thick, white curtains, swirling against the ceiling. They sank into the heat, letting the warmth soak into muscles that had been locked in combat for hours. Soon, they gathered around a massive, heavy table. A steaming roast beef sat in the center, the scent of salt and charred meat cutting through the lingering smell of citrus. They carved into the meal, the blades sliding through tender fibers. Each bite was heavy, grounding, and real. They ate in silence, the clatter of cutlery against wood the only sound in the room. The victory was no longer a concept. It was the heat on their skin, the weight of the food, and the absolute, quiet stillness.